appears that interesting is a matter of definition. So whenever we turn on the TV or read an article, it seems like we're being sort of assaulted with information. But I found a fabulous article that I thought was the best news that I have heard in the past several weeks. And that is, apparently, we have Neanderthal DNA in us. Now, this study was done by a group of, I believe they call them evolutionary genealogists down at Vanderbilt University. And somehow, Vanderbilt University's staff of scientists have been able to determine that we still have maybe around 4% of Neanderthal DNA in us. Now today, that doesn't account for good things. They have also determined that the things that sort of cause addictions in us can come from that, as well as depression. So today, it's, bad stuff, but just the thought that we could have DNA in us from people that lived, 50 to 60,000 years ago. It was because as we were evolving, when the migrations of people began out of Africa, people were moving into, Northern Europe, Asia, Siberia, everywhere, and it was colder, and the temperatures were very, very different. And so apparently by mating with the native peoples, including the Neanderthal, our ancestors were able to survive in these harsh climates. So back in the day, at that stage of evolution, it was a very good thing for us. Now you're thinking, okay, and that has to do with what? The reason I thought about that was I was thinking a lot about our Philippians text this morning. This particular passage of Philippians just sort of jumps out at me because I believe it's sort of a treasure that Paul was giving to the church at Philippi. Paul absolutely adored and cared very, very deeply about the church at Philippi. It is said that those were sort of his favorite peoples. And what Paul did was he wrote them a letter, apparently, when he was incarcerated. And, Paul ended up in jail several times. And scholars aren't sure which incarceration led to this letter, but one of them did. And Paul took the time to write his beloved congregation, if you will, a letter warning them at first about the enemies of Christ, but also giving them this great gift, which says, he will transform the body of our humiliation, that it may be conformed to the body of his glory. A transformation. Not an evolution, a transformation into God's absolute glory through the power of Jesus Christ. Now, I think all of us, it's the nature of our lives. I think we tend to think a lot more about evolutionary things than transformational things. Evolution, of course, is a gradual progress, a gradual procession. And transformation is something else entirely, because it comes from God, it comes through Jesus Christ, and it will bring us glory. Now, if you recall the scripture from last week or 2 weeks ago, Paul was talking in Corinthians about a shift and a transformation from glory to glory. This was a huge theme for Paul. He really wanted us to understand that what we are today, we're simply not going to be. When will this happen? Who knows? Christ is working on each and every one of us, every hour of our day, with every breath we take. This transformation process is starting in some way. I think it's important that we believe this idea of Christ Christ transforming us into his glory. Because I read a fascinating commentary that sort of said it better than I ever could. It was in the Oxford Bible commentary. And it basically said that if people don't accept this notion of transformation, then Christianity becomes nothing more than another philosophy. You know, a philosophy of life. You know, I have a philosophy of life that I, you know, don't go out and randomly cut down beautiful green trees, you know. Well, I have a philosophy of life that there's Jesus Christ. Well, it shouldn't be, oh, by the way, and it shouldn't be equal. It should be because of this transformation, not yet another philosophy of our life, but I would suggest the philosophy of our life. So yes, we do still have Neanderthal DNA coursing through us, and that was very helpful in getting us this far, getting us to where we are today. But it's the transformation that's going to come from Jesus Christ that is going to bring us into eternal